Hello, it's Paul Rayburn again. It's Saturday, January 25th, 2025. Um, and I just wanted to post a short video, sort of in the middle of making another one that I'm going to follow up on when I started last week, get that finished off. So I wanted to share this. I'm talking again about the visual scale of oops, uh, visual scale, viewing time series data, and the effects of scale. And I say scale, I mean the linear scale on the vertical or y-axis versus using like a logarithmic scale to help better visualize that. So I had a post here on LinkedIn. I will recreate this and share it on a blog post in case you're not following LinkedIn. But if you are and you are following and you want to, so you can share it with your network or other cases. But anyway, so I thought this was a really good chart that sort of highlights it really well. So we can see, common issue is that people will see a chart like this, and let me just start. Let me just come back to the purpose. Why am I talking about this? So, in about 2016, I started focusing on complex appraisal assignments. I realized that, you know, um, AVMs are taking more and more of the sort of cookie cutter work. And as we have seen over the past, 8 years, well, it's going to be 10 years before we know it, but slowly over time, AVMs and alternatives are taking up the simple assignments. And so, I knew that we need to be focusing on sort of the complex assignments. And as a part of that, describing the markets to your readers of your reports and what they're seeing and I use more graphic information because I am providing, we're focusing on evidence-based valuation because as you get into, alternate clients and more complex appraisals, um, your work becomes, you're under a lot more scrutiny. There's a lot more interest in how you arrived at your analysis and adjustments. The big A, the adjustments word. Um, and I focus more so on evidence-based valuation, and increasingly more so how adjustments can't be supported in the market. So, so for expert witness litigation work, divorce, estate disputes, this kind of work, um, and coupled with, generally getting the more complex ones. So putting those graphics and then describing reasons, and I focus on this one here because I've just seen a lot of times where people sort of jump to conclusions and they'll see a chart like this and they'll say, like this, and say, well, you can't compare these two markets, and as you can see, I'll go through here. Yes, in this case, it's exaggerated. These are probably not comparable markets. Um, but there are times when you are comparing these different types of these large grains and data sets over time and between the sets. So here, when you look at this and you think, oh, that increased it a lot faster, and I've just seen countless times where folks that are in real estate and you would think would be aware, commenting, but oh, look at how that market increased at such a greater rate. But when you actually, this is just the lower market zoomed in on. So because of that scale, this is, and the basis that, this is basically from 0 to 500. Well, that's an immeasurable percentage. But even, so if say that is, well, it's actually just under 100,000. So if we zoom in on just that, then you get to see that in a little more detail. You don't see it in that scale. Um, so I like to generally show in my reports both linear, this would be linear and log scale, so that you can see that, okay, well, this data looks like it's very not very conforming, but when you zoom it in, you see that it's not all that much different than this. Now this is a benchmark model. I use developing a benchmark process to do that, and Now, describing and explaining the logarithmic scale. So that's the purpose. That's why I'm here today, is trying to show it visually. But also, I've provided in this post, and I'll provide them in this video, links in the comments and my blog post, links to these, which are these ones here. So this from the Colorado, sorry, Colorado State Library, Colorado Department of Education, the Library Research Service, but they do a pretty good job of explaining the scales go out of control. They show it here, they talk about it, and then they show, well, they show actually the logarithmic scale first and then the linear scale here first. So you can read about that and how they explain it. It's pretty good. Wasn't perfect. I didn't think it quite got the point across. This one here was a lot more in-depth than this YouTube video here. Complete guide to everything, whoever this was. I've got a link to that. You can do, this one talks about both log scale in both axis, which is a whole nother purpose. So you can check that out. But this one goes into a lot more detail. I thought it was just too complicated for our purpose. So I just happened to be working on an assignment here, and so I wanted to highlight a couple things that popped into mind. So again, this is sort of a complex assignment. It's actually First Nations land, leasehold property, multiple, even though they're generally fairly conforming properties, like the lot sizes and whatnot, the leases themselves are a lot of variation. So, but that's not the point of this video here. I just you know, it was on my desk and I thought, oh, I could take this opportunity to again pound that issue home. So number one, you're going to see a lot of graphs like this. So let me just focus on just that. So you're going to see an index provided by, you know, maybe your MLS or some data provider, data aggregator that provides market comparisons. Something like this is from my MLS, and this is in that neighborhood, right? So again, and you're going to see now what they're not going to show you is this. You know, most times they're just showing you the clean trend line, even though this is not really a clean per se line, but you know, that's the thing, is that, you know, what data was it actually developed on? So, and how consistent is it? Well, I'll also talk about in other videos, search up my videos, or others who talk about compositional shift. Some, you know, there's what happens in market, what happened between spring 2022 and January. Well, we've got clearly some seasonal things going on here. We've got summer highs and winter lows. Okay, that's fine. And especially if you're doing work for a client that needs a specific exposure time, and if you're doing an appraisal at the end of summer or the fall, and they expect a 90-day exposure time, you know, if maybe it's for like a relocation assignment or something like that, then you're going to have to, you know, determine what that value is going to be in 90 days, or what the exposure is going to require, and then what seasonal effect might come into play with that. So again, that's not necessarily my focus here. I want to focus on the scale. So let's get back to that, and we can go back over here. Okay, so we've got all the data back on there. I'm just going to show a couple markets in here. I'm going to show you this one, and I'm going to show the linear trends here. Okay, so now when you look at that on, that's now put this on a logarithmic scale on this y-axis. So when it was not on the y-axis, sorry, you had this, oops, you had this, oops, come on, there you go. Let's go. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, so now you can see that, you know, it appears that this market is climbing at a higher rate than this one. Well, let's look at that on the logarithmic scale, because what's happening here is is that from 200 to 300, that's a 50% increase in this, whatever that scale is on your screen, if that's 2 inches or 1 inch, whatever size screen you're looking at. And then for the same visual height, visual on your screen, on your printout, even a piece of paper or whatever, and then from let's say up at the upper range here, you know, from 500 to 600, that, you know, it's just, I'm exaggerating, that's exaggerated, but the actual numbers, that's 20%. So down here for this scale, this inch on your screen, is 50%, and up here it's 20%. So visually it appears more exaggerated when you look at those charts like that. So when you look at it with on the y-axis, and again I'll just turn those trend lines on. Oops. That one. Okay, so now on that axis, now you can see they're actually in visually they look quite the same. So if you're presenting this in a report or a client, and they see a market that looks quite a bit different, it just maybe they don't say anything or ever to you, or maybe they do, but I've seen people make those assumptions that market was moving at a substantially different rate than this one. So that viewing things in that log scale can help the eye see the difference. Of course, you could make this very extreme, but that's not helpful either. So this is the point of this is helping to understand that. I've had lots of people have made this point before, and people appreciate it. So I thought I had another opportunity to maybe explain it a slightly different way. And so thanks for tuning in. Check out some other videos. Again, this application is built on R and a Shiny, and I'm working to try and build something that I can make like an open source or open base type program to share with other appraisers to help lift up our entire profession. Again, this is just scratching the surface. Check out some other videos, and we've got some more new stuff coming out. So it all comes from the fundamental of George Dell's community of asset analysts. So if you're interested, take George's courses, so again, I'll come back to you here. Yeah, so reach out if you want to learn more. The idea is not to make appraising itself more complex, is to make that complex work, those more in-depth analysis that you need to do, more efficient and more holistic, I guess. There's just so much more that we can do. I think we're just scratching the surface as a profession, and I know there's folks out there that do advanced stuff, and I'm not the only one. And there's definitely people that are doing cooler things than I am, but I am just trying to do my part to lift up the profession and maybe provide another avenue for people to do that. I appreciate Brent Bowen. I'll provide a link to his stuff. Also providing some more in-depth appraiser analysis. So check out his stuff. Again, sort of going that extra step to do more advanced stuff, and figuring out your own market. There's not going to be just one tool, one way. There's multiple methods, multiple tools, multiple opportunities to do more advanced work. So anyways, have a great day.